Hello and welcome to Joy of Books with me, Miss Joy. Today's offering is the British classic Fever Pitch by Nick Hornby. Released in 1992 and totaling 247 pages, the book is a memoir of an author's experiences following his favorite football team. Sharing his views in the book today is author and teacher TC. So, TC, tell us about this famous book.
Thank you, Miss Joy. Well, I have to admit, I did enjoy this book. It is a good read. It's all about the author's life experiences, and 99.9% of them centre around his obsession with Arsenal Football Club. That's a soccer team for any of those American listeners. The book focuses upon one game at a time, most of which took place at Highbury Stadium. That's, of course, the stadium that Arsenal considered home before their new stadium, the Emirates, which is just a little bit up the road from the place that was known as Highbury. So it's an interestingly written book. Like I say, there aren't too many books that you've got books that are written as diary entries, of course, but this book is written in a series of football matches, and he even considers his whole life around the idea of football season dates. So the 86-87 season, for example, 88-89, it talks of cup finals and semi-finals and disappointments and successes, but mostly disappointments, to be fair, at this time. So Arsenal, successful team now, or certainly 10, 15 years ago, but at the time the author was writing, they were a little bit success starved. So this adds this nice kind of weight to this book. And I like that. We can sympathise with the author, although understanding his obsessive following of the club at that time, that's a little bit more difficult to follow. And again, I have no doubt that football fans will love this book, and certainly Arsenal fans will absolutely love this book. I believe the book is on sale at the new ground itself currently, so it would suggest that it has stood the test of time without any shadow of a doubt. So the book talks a lot about the games and about the players and the experiences on the terraces. Of course, the terraces were the stadium standing areas before they brought in all-seater stadiums post Hillsborough and that disaster. So there is that sense of violence and threat whenever he attended a game in the 70s and 80s. But, will that appeal to, I don't know, non-football fans or possibly females? I'm not so sure about that. There is an argument, of course, that non-Arsenal fans might quite dislike this book. But the counter-argument might be to that there were film versions made of this book and quite successful and quite enjoyed by all fans. If you're completely anti-Arsenal, then, well, you might like this book because actually it's about Arsenal's kind of low periods in history. It doesn't talk about the success of Arsene Wenger, that era, for example. It predates that. So there you go. Maybe there is something in it for those who are anti-Arsenal, if you like. I quite enjoyed this book. I'd love to read a similar book for my own team, who've also been success-starved continually. So I can certainly say that this would definitely appeal to Arsenal fans. No doubt about that. In terms of the obsession of the football fan, it certainly captures the essence and spirit of that. The idea of the pure concept of what would make them take days off work to travel the length and breadth of the country to watch their team play, and sometimes the most dismal results, like a dull 0-0 away at Plymouth, for example, or up in Sunderland on a dull Tuesday evening. I can't imagine, what would go through the mind of somebody like that. There is an allusion from the author that it goes back to family. He states that his parents split up when he was very young, and of course all the tribulations that came of that sad event in his life. But the idea that Arsenal Football Club kind of became his surrogate family, if you like. Well, I don't know. I can understand it as a football fan, that need to belong, that need to follow something bigger than oneself. There's a lovely extract, actually, which talks about the fans' role in a victory, okay? Because, of course, the players win, they get well paid now. But what is in it for the fans other than, of course, celebrating a victory? So Mr. Over just can indulge me with sharing this little extract here. So he says here, after a cup final win, the joy we feel on occasions like this is not a celebration of others' good fortune, but a celebration of our own. And when there is a disastrous defeat, the sorrow that engulfs us is, in effect, self-pity. And anyone who wishes to understand how football is consumed must realise this above all things. The players are merely our representatives, chosen by the manager rather than elected by us. But our representatives nonetheless. And sometimes, if you look hard, you can see the little poles that join them together, and the handles at the side that enable us to move them. I am part of the club, just as the club is a part of me. I say this fully aware that the club exploits me, disregards my views, and treats me shoddily on occasions. So my feeling of organic connection is not built on a muddle-headed and sentimental misunderstanding of how professional football works. This Wembley win belonged to me, every bit as much as it belonged to Charlie Nicholas or George Graham, and I worked every bit as hard for it as they did. The only difference between me and them is that I have put in more hours, more years, more decades than them, and so had a better understanding of the afternoon, a sweeter appreciation of why the sun still shines when I remember it. Oh, okay, I wouldn't normally share such a lengthy extract, but I would say that that does encapsulate that the whole essence of any football fan there. But that is the kind of quality of writing that you're getting from Nick Hornby. And of course, one of his earlier books as well. He does talk about his writing career generally and how he struggled to get that off the ground. But it's really interesting that he intertwines his love of football with his love of writing. Do what you love. That's the kind of message behind this book. So in terms of the book, yeah, I did enjoy it. In terms of negatives, as I say, will it appeal to females or non-football fans or non-Arsenal fans? That's a decision for them to make. I personally really enjoyed it. Another minor criticism, perhaps there's not enough of his own life in there. He talks, for example, about having lots of girlfriends, but doesn't quite go into detail as regards how those relationships worked or obviously didn't work in many of the cases. Maybe something that he felt wasn't necessary because the focus of the book is the obsession with football. But for me, I really enjoyed it, despite not being an Arsenal fan at all. It's a good read.
It certainly sounds like you quite enjoyed reading the book. I can see that you are a football fan yourself, TC. Fever Pitch by Nick Hornby is, of course, still available from all good book outlets. Thank you for joining me, and please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, Joy of Books.